Hello, my name is Madi, Hammond, and I am part of Gen Z. Now, Gen Z is anyone who was born from 1996 to 2015. To give that a little bit of context, you are a millennial if you are born from 1977 to 1995. You are part of Gen X if you are born from 1965 to 1976. And you are a baby boomer if you are born from 1946 to 1964. I'm 14, so I'm part of Gen Z. Now, a really big misconception about the generations is that Gen Z and millennials are the same thing, and we're not. So I've got a few people of celebrities that will help hopefully make it make sense. First up, this guy. This is Shawn Mendes. He's about 20 years old. He's a popular singer, and he is part of Gen Z. Justin Timberlake is not, okay? Got that? Okay, we have another one. This is Zendaya. She's an actress. She was in a Disney Channel show. She's been in a few movies. She is Gen Z, although again on the older side. Anne Hathaway is not. So now that we've gotten that cleared up, okay, I'd like to help describe my generation's culture for you guys. And to do that, I've ironically turned to the internet. You know, I'm always on it. I might as well use it. So I Googled the word Gen Z memes and Gen Z funny, and what showed up was shockingly accurate. First up, we have Gen Z culture is debating if it's milk before cereal or vice versa in class, and then having that one kid come in and go, I put bleach before my cereal, and then dabbing as the rest of your class laughs and goes same while your Gen X teacher looks horrified. It's probably a bad sign that I've experienced something nearly identical to this in my own class, even though the dabbing's a bit outdated. It's fine. Okay, here's another one. Gen Z culture is doing really unhealthy things, but when your friend does it too, you tell them to stop because it's unhealthy. Now that's kind of all the generations, but that really, it's a Gen Z thing. You can't forget about it. Last one. Gen Z culture is saying I want to die and getting a chorus of same, big mood, and me. That one I feel like is the most true because I hear I want to die on a regular basis, no matter how violent that seems. We just have a depressing sense of humor. It's fine. Another really big portion that defines our culture is that the first place that we turn to for news or information isn't in a card catalog, it's not in a newspaper, it's not in a dusty old copy of Encyclopedia Britannica that's been sitting on your shelf since the Dark Ages. Remember libraries? Yeah, me neither. No other past generation has had access to the amount of knowledge and information that we do right now. You probably have your phone in your pocket, in your hand, or in your purse. And if you have virtually any question, you could ask Mr. Google and he'll give you an answer in 0.5 milliseconds. That wasn't a way of life before. But Gen Z has grown up having all this access to information for our entire lives. If I was born 50 years ago, I would not know all of the things that I know. Some things are positive, like how to arm knit a scarf or say dolphin in Chinese thanks to Google Translate. Some things are more neutral, not really positive or negative, like the Hollow Earth conspiracy theory, or really any conspiracy theory thanks to Shane Dawson and YouTube. But there are some more disturbing and negative things that I've learned from the internet. Things like how to kill, things like how to fight, things like how easy it is to break glass, how many different ways people can invade your school, how many different ways you can die, how many ways people can walk past you, how many serial killers you have met in your lifetime. 50 years ago, my 6th grade band teacher might have not promised to a group of 11-year-olds that he would die for each and every one of them if a shooter attacked. But would those same 6th graders have solemnly asked him what he would do in virtually every situation we had heard on the internet or heard on the news just to make sure he would protect us? The news is much more immediate now than it ever has been. There was always communication, like word of mouth, the Pony Express, we get it. But we have the internet now. And we have lots of different news sources instead of just one or two. The other day, I opened up the news app because I like to read the news, and these were the top stories. Everything circled in red is something that is negative. If you scroll down or go to other pages, you can read about more stories, more controversy, more global warming consequences, corrupt governments across the world, dead children in South Africa, and more. And it's updated constantly. We are constantly online, and we are being fed with too many details, too many options, too many stories, too much tragedy, too much homework, too much anxiety. The other day, I was sitting in history class, we were working on a group project. Well, we were choosing the groups. It's kind of looking at that one person I want to work with and kind of ignoring everyone else, that one person. But we heard bangs coming from outside the classroom door. And it wasn't like a tiny little pop. It was like a big bang. And we all looked towards the door, and you could feel the tension as we stared at the door and at each other, and we just waited for the gunman to come bursting in. Just staring at that door, staring at each other, didn't say anything. We all knew what we were thinking. We knew that we were scared. And we knew that we were scared over balloons popping because it was a science classroom and they were doing an experiment. But we were still scared. Now that's more of a hot topic, We're in a school, we heard bangs, there's been school shootings, it makes sense. But there have been other situations where the ridiculous becomes real, and these tiny little situations are blown out of proportion, and then mass panic is caused. Anyone remember October 2016? Anyone? Let's think back a few years. That was the month of the mannequin challenge, the dance Juju on that beat, and most importantly, the clowns that were going to kill us all. Anyone? The clowns? All I remember from that month is that my friends and I, we were so scared. We were afraid of the clowns getting us. We didn't want to go trick-or-treating because the clowns. We didn't go outside because the clowns. I've been chased by the clowns. We wouldn't even Google the word clown because we were afraid of what would show up underneath, which is ridiculous because they're literally clowns. But we were still scared. We were scared that we would be attacked because we were warned constantly that we could be, especially because there were no clowns anywhere near here, and they were all further down south, and they didn't hurt anyone. They just walked around and looked scary. But we were still scared. A couple years ago, I used to come home from school crying because I heard a tough story about the news, a tough story in class, a tough discussion. But by the next year, I was numb to it. I had no reaction to any stories at all. And this is a problem. Everyone is hearing these stories. This is the thought process. We're hearing all these stories. Everyone else is hearing them. No one else is affected. Why am I so much affected? Why am I afraid? Why am I afraid of clowns? Why am I afraid of being shot? This is the worst part. It's not the news. It's feeling like you have to act like it doesn't affect you, like it doesn't matter. Like I said, I was scared in 6th and not 7th grade. 7th grade was also the year that I tried to go without crying. And the reason being because I didn't want to seem weak or vulnerable. I was proud to say that I succeeded. I didn't cry once that entire year because I didn't want to seem weak or vulnerable. This is a 12-year-old. And then the next year, when I learned about suicide bombers, I would run through situations of everyone I knew dying in my head just to make sure that if and when it actually happened, I wouldn't cry. Like I said, this is a 12-year-old. This is my thought process as a 12-year-old. And a big part that influenced my thinking was the women's empowerment movement, which is great. It's one of the best things that's happened in the past 100 years. But now, teen girls like me, if we feel the pressure, we feel pressured like we have to be tough, fight the patriarchy, don't cry, don't show emotion, don't be vulnerable. But we are so surrounded by the news and the media and scary things that sometimes we have to be vulnerable. And we really just want to be told that it's going to be all right sometimes. But there is no making it stop. So really, the best thing we can do is to take the exposure to the media and the sources that are exposing us and flip them back on themselves to create positive change. And we are seeing this already. And the youngest members of Gen Z, they're only 3. Who knows what they can do in the next, hopefully, long years of their lives? We already have people like Malala Yousafzai, the girl who wrote articles for the BBC about her life under the rule of the Taliban, the girl who was shot in the head because she had such a strong voice, the girl who spoke out about how she wasn't allowed to go to school because she was a girl, the girl who is the youngest ever winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. We have people like Malala Yousafzai, ladies and gentlemen. And we have more. We have people like the Parkland activists, who, after their school was shot, there was a shooting at their school a year ago. They organized the March for Our Lives. People like David Hogg and Emma Gonzalez who gave speeches. People who not only are pushing for gun reform, but also registered many people to vote in the 2018 election, even though they themselves were barely old enough or not even old enough to vote. We have people like the Parkland students. And then we have people like Greta Thunberg, the girl who since August of 2018 striked from school and sat outside the Swedish parliament as an activist for global warming. The girl who organized the world's largest ever world strike for climate change just last Friday, including more than 1.5 million students across the world who striked from school as a protest. The girl who gave a speech to the United Nations and was just last week nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And if she wins, she will beat Malala Yousafzai as the youngest ever person to win it. Yeah, thank you. We have people like Greta Thunberg. And then we have some of the lesser known people. People like Sunita Alizadeh, a rapper from Afghanistan who posted the viral video Girls for Sale, who is an activist against child marriage and forced marriages. We have people like Sunita Alizadeh. And there are so many more other people. And like I said, the youngest are only 3, so who knows who else is going to come? We will be affected by this negative media. You can't change that. But what we can change is how other generations respond to Gen Z and how Gen Z ourselves use this media and exposure. There's no putting Google back in the box. This is not just my reality and Gen Z's reality, but could potentially be the reality for generations to come. But what we can do is to use this connection to make a difference and to make it matter. Thank you.